back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, June 28th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the lawsuit against the NFL involving the Sunday ticket package. So I wanted to get into that because that actually has really been making news. And I've kind of been seeing news on it. But I haven't really touched upon it, but there was a verdict, so I wanted to get into that and give you my thoughts on it, so we'll talk about it. Then in the second part of the show, I will continue my schedule breakdowns. Today, we will be covering the Tennessee Titans schedule, and that'll be the final schedule breakdown of the AFC South. And then we have one more division, which I will get into when I get back from vacation, because I will not be here next week. Then in the third part of the show, I'll talk about some comments made by Greg Olsen, talking about the 49ers and how he still thinks, they're the class of the NFC, they're the team to beat. And I know that's something that I've kind of talked about, throughout the offseason here, but I just wanted to get into what he had to say, and I'll talk about the teams that have the best chance of knocking off the 49ers. And then moving on to the fourth part of the show, we'll get into, some comments made by Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman on Gerard Mayo as the head coach of the Patriots. So we'll talk about what they had to say. And then we'll get into what the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars had to say about the collapse last season. So I wanted to get into what he had to say, Shad Khan. So we'll get into that as well. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the lawsuit against the NFL over the Sunday ticket. So there was a verdict on that. So the NFL has been ordered to pay $4.7 billion in residential class damages and $96 million in commercial class damages. And the reason for that, the lawsuit argued that the NFL, its teams, and its network partners violated antitrust rules by limiting competition and inflating the price of the Sunday ticket. And I watched, a video with Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk, and he kind of just said how, the NFL made it the price the way it is so less people would buy the product, and they would stay with watching, and they would just go to, Fox, CBS to watch whatever game is on. And I thought that was interesting. So This lawsuit actually was filed all the way back in 2015 by San Francisco's The Mucky Duck Sports Bar. It claimed DirecTV, CBS, ESPN, and Fox suppressed competition through exclusive agreements with the NFL. DirecTV held the exclusive Sunday ticket package from 1994 to 2022. And these damages, the NFL could actually have to pay $12 billion, so it would be tripled. Now, the NFL is going to appeal this, so it's not like this is going to happen right now, but, this was a big deal, So I just wanted to touch upon it. And yeah, we still got a long way to go with this. The NFL was kind of disappointed by the ruling. You had Roger Goodell testifying, Jerry Jones, I think Robert Kraft as well. So yeah, this is kind of a big deal. And yeah, like I said, this is going to be ongoing. But like I said, if you know it ends up ruling in favor of the businesses and the subscribers, the NFL is going to have to pay a lot of money. So, but yeah, it's something that's going to continue. It's going to be ongoing. This is something that's not going to end yet because this is going to keep going through the courts, and yeah, maybe it ends up in the Supreme Court. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting, and just a lot of the complaints are, I mean, the price is about, I think it's $400. Well, it's more than that. It's a little more than 400 to get the whole package. But people are talking about how they want to just get their own team and just be able to buy to subscribe to their own team and just be able to watch their team without having to pay for the entire package. Like if you're, a Packers fan and you live in Pittsburgh, you just want to get Packers games. For me, like, I'd want to get the whole package. I mean, I think, $400 or whatever the price is, it's a little too much for me. So I wouldn't, pay for that. Because what I did was when I was a student, I would just get, the student discount, and you just pay, $100 for the whole season. Like that I could do, but $400 for me, I don't think I want to do that. But I understand people's frustrations over it because yeah, you just want to watch your team if you're not able to get them, in your local area. Now, for me, being in New York, the New York teams have not been great over the last, for a while. I shouldn't say last several years. They haven't been good for a while. The Giants, had a couple years where they made the playoffs, but we haven't seen good football from them, and same thing with the Jets. So for me, it's always hard when, the last couple years, how I watch the games has been a little different, but I'm not trying to watch the Giants or the Jets. I was not really home during the regular season of football. I was, elsewhere. I was at work during the games. So, there was a couple weeks. Well, there was 1 week when I was home, and the Jets were playing the Falcons, and I chose to watch Red Zone instead. Because I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and watch this whole game. And it was that game that was in the rain, and the Falcon. It was a low-scoring game. Like, I just sat there and watched Red Zone. And, it's just, but I didn't buy the Sunday ticket this year. And it switched over from DirecTV to YouTube TV. But I just think it's interesting that there's that they're thinking that allegedly the NFL is conspiring with its TV partners. It seems so they're upping the price on the Sunday ticket, so you're forced to watch the games that are on your local stations. I don't know how true that is. It could be true, it could be not. But, because if you're going to watch the Sunday ticket, yeah, you're losing some viewers there. So, these partnerships have been going on for years. And, the Sunday ticket, is a way to, maybe I don't want to watch the games that are on the local channels. I want to watch a game that I actually want to see. Like, there's going to be games on in, the early window that maybe you're not going to be able to watch because, you got to watch the teams that are in your local area. And, that's why you want to go to the Sunday ticket so you can watch those games. And, people are talking about, different ways of, being able to, like I said, get your team, be able to watch them, or, buy the rights to, several teams. I know when I was listening to what they had to say on the Michael K show, they were saying, oh, you can maybe get the rights to maybe, a whole division or something. Because for me, unless the Giants are good this year, I could live without watching them every Sunday. I'd be fine with, if the Chiefs are playing early, watch them. The Texans are on, the Packers, like some of these teams that, that are going to be good. You want to watch those teams. Like I don't want to, like, no offense to my team, but I just don't think my team is going to be very good this year. So I would much rather watch, better football than, my team each week. But I mean, that's my thoughts on the matter. But yeah, this is something that is going to continue. This is not over yet. We got a long way to go with this. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money for this package. And that would be a huge dent in the, well, I don't know if I want to say it's a huge dent, but it's going to be some sort of dent in the NFL's wallet if they're forced to pay not just 4.7 but triple that to 12 million. So we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out, but it is interesting. Again, for me, I think like $400 plus dollars for the entire package is a lot. But I know when I was listening to the Michael K show, Michael K's like $400. Yeah, that's doable. I'm like, I'm not paying for that. I was paying $100 for the student discount when I was still going to school. Like that is fine with me. But yeah, I mean, for that much, it's not worth it. But that's why you could always fall back on, because like I said, when I was home for one of the regular season games or one of the regular season weeks, when the Jets were playing the Falcons, I just turned on Red Zone. Now, I do like to consume an entire game. I do love Red Zone, but I do like watching an entire game. And with Red Zone, you don't do that. It's a lot of, jumping around, which is why it's so great. But that's just my opinion. But I think when people get the whole package, you get it because, well, one of the main reasons is for fantasy and gambling and all that, which I do agree. That was one of the reasons why, I got the Sunday ticket when I was still in school. It's because of fantasy. You want to see how your players are doing. I mean, the delay was really bad, though. Because, like, that's why you had to stay off your phone, because you'd see what your player does before it actually happens. But, yeah, I would agree that is one of the reasons why I would get the Sunday ticket. But now I'm not getting it because the price is just, for me, it's too much. But I mean, maybe in the future, I'll do it, but right now, no. But like I said, the NFL is going to appeal. They're not happy with the ruling. So the NFL doesn't have to pay anything yet. We'll see. We got a long way to go. But I had no idea that, I'll be honest, I really didn't know that this all started back in 2015 with a sports bar. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the verdict. How do you see this all playing out? It's interesting. So it's something we'll have to keep an eye on. But I just thought it was something that I would talk about. I know it's lawsuits and things like that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm an expert with all of this, but I think I got the gist of it. So I just thought it was something interesting to cover today. So we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we will talk about the Tennessee Titans schedule. I'll give you my early win-loss predictions for them. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. Feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we will continue our schedule breakdowns. Today, we will be talking about the Tennessee Titans, the last team that I will cover in the AFC South. Last year, they went 6-11, and they've gone through some changes. This is going to be Will Levis's first full year as the starter. They went out, they traded for L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs, which was a good move. They also added to the receiving corps. They signed Calvin Ridley. They signed Tyler Boyd. They also brought in Tony Pollard, with Derrick Henry leaving in free agency and joining the Baltimore Ravens. So they're going to look different. And I don't really know what to expect. If Will Levis is good in year two, I mean, I think the Titans, maybe they could be a team that, that comes out of, I don't want to say comes out of nowhere, but maybe a team that surprises people. But I don't know. I feel like for me, I mean, I was going over the schedule last night. I don't really see them, finishing with a great record this year. But let's kind of get into their schedule here. So they start off the year. Now, this is an interesting game right off the bat against the Bears. So you got Will Levis, his first full year as a starter, and then you got Caleb Williams, who there's a lot of hype around him with the Bears. And I think the Bears are going to be a good team. There might, like I said, I think I've said it. Yeah, I've said this. There's going to be struggles early on, I think, but I feel like this team, with the playmakers and the defense, was better last year. I feel like this team is going to be good and maybe could make the playoffs. So, I mean, I think the Titans could win this game. I think I lean towards the Bears winning. So I think the Titans will start off 0-1, but I think this is a game they could win. Week 2 against the Jets, I mean, we don't know what to expect out of Aaron Rodgers coming off of the Achilles. I think I also gave the Jets the win here. But it is at home, so I think this is another game that the Titans could win, but I'd probably lean more towards not, because I think the Jets are going to be really good this year. Then it doesn't get any easier against the Packers. Again, the Packers, they dropped a game early on against the Falcons where they had the game, and then they ended up the Falcons ended up coming back in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that the Titans have no shot in this game either, but again, I would lean towards the Packers here. So, not off to a good start for the Titans. Then they play the Dolphins early on in the season. Now, if you remember last year, they were down by a couple of scores, and then they ended up coming back and winning the game, which I was very surprised by that. Tyreek Hill got hurt in the game last year, but I don't know. I still would take the Dolphins here. So, yeah, right now I got the Titans starting off 0-4. Then they take on the Colts. Now, I feel like they could split with the Colts. I think they'll split with the Colts. I think they'll split with the Jags. So there's where I see a couple wins. I mean, they're at home here. So maybe they get the win here and then they lose in Indy. So I'll give them a win against the Colts, and like I said, a win against the Jags. Then against the Bills in Buffalo. I mean, we got to see how Josh Allen is with this new receiving core. Bills made a lot of changes. I would still probably lean towards the Bills. So, yeah, it's not going great so far for the Titans. And then, again, doesn't get any easier. You take on the Lions in Detroit. I think that's probably a loss. They're home against the Patriots. I think that's a game they could definitely win. So I'd probably lean towards giving them a win there. The Chargers, again, a team, similar to the Bills, changes at the receiving core. I mean, the Chargers are at home. I mean, I'd give the Titans a chance here, but I'd probably lean towards the Chargers. And then they take on the Vikings in Week 11. I mean, we'll see how Sam Darnold plays. I mean, we'll see. Maybe J.J. McCarthy's playing at this point. But you know what? I think the Titans could win this game, being at home. So I'd maybe, they get the win there, possibly. Then again, against the Texans, I feel like the Texans now. Maybe the Texans have the division locked up by week 18 and they rest their starters, and the Titans, can maybe take advantage of that and win the game when they're at home against the Texans. But maybe the Texans need that game and they play their starters. So, but I'll probably just say that the Texans will sweep them. And then the Commanders game could be interesting because you got Jaden Daniels, rookie quarterback, Will Levis, his first full year. So he's going to be going up against the number 1 and number 2 overall picks this year. And also maybe Drake May as well. He could be going up against Drake May. Could be going up against J.J. McCarthy. So, that game I feel like could go either way. So maybe that's a win. And then we get to the end of the season. They play all their divisional opponents and they play the Bengals. So, like I said, I think they'll split with the Jags. Against the Bengals, they did beat the Bengals last year, but I think it's going to be different. I think the Bengals, they'll go in there, and I think we'll get the win. And then, like I said, split against the Colts, split against the Jags, and then maybe, depending on if the Texans rest their starters in Week 18, if they don't have to play them, if they're pretty much set where they are, then maybe the Titans get a win there. So, let's see. So, I got their 3 divisional, splitting with the Jags and the Colts. Maybe winning against the Commanders, I think, could be a win. Vikings could be a win. The Bears could be a win. Possibly the Patriots. So I would say like maybe 6 or 7 wins. I think it's gonna be tough. They got some tough games on their schedule here. But yeah, and that's what they finished with last year. They went 6-11. Now they got a rookie head coach. We'll see. But if they do finish with that kind of record, but Will Levis still has a good year, then you go from there. But if Will Levis is not good, then they got an issue on their hands. But we'll see. I think around 6 or 7 wins. It is going to be tough, though. I mean, early on in the season, you're playing the Bears at Soldier Field. But, again, I mean, that's a game they could win. The Jets, I think the Jets are going to be really good. So that's going to be a tough game. The Packers, I think, are going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. Then you take on the Dolphins early on in the year, which I think, late in the season, guys are all banged up, and Tyreek Hill got hurt in the game. In week 4, it's going to be a different kind of game. So, but I think if the Titans are going to want to have a good year, it's going to come down to the quarterback. And is Tony Pollard going to be the Tony Pollard from 2022? Another year removed from the injury that he had in the playoffs against the Niners a couple years ago. Because if you can get that Tony Pollard pair him with Tajay Spears, that could be a nice duo there. And the receiving core, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good receiving core, but I mean, it's if this was like 2018, this would be one of the best receiving cores in the NFL. But Ridley, I think he's 30 now. DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is 31. Tyler Boyd is right around there too. I think he's 29. But I think these guys are still, good. It's just, it's not like if they had this receiving core back in, 2018 when D-Hop was one of the best receivers in the NFL, and, Ridley was a young player. But we'll see. I think they'll still be good. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was okay for the Titans last year. He had the 3 touchdowns in Will Levis's debut. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how the Titans do, but I still look at them as that last place team. So I had the Texans going 12-5, the Colts 9-8, Jags 8-9, and then the Titans around 6-7 wins. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, against the Jets, you're at home. The Packers, you're at home. The Bengals, you're at home. So, and you do get each of your divisional opponents, you get a home game there. But, at Detroit's going to be tough, in Miami against that offense, in Buffalo. The Chargers, we'll see how they are. But I think with Harbaugh, they might be a little bit of a problem. And you got Justin Herbert, coming back healthy. So, and I think with Harbaugh, the defense is going to, improve. So, we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, that's really my thoughts on their schedule. Let me know what you guys think, though. How many games do you think the Titans will win in 2024? I think around 6-7 wins. I think that's fair. That's what they finished with last year's 6 wins. But that is going to be a disappointment, though, if that ends up happening. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they end up, being better than that. But I think it really all comes down to the growth of their young quarterback. So before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about some comments made by Greg Olsen, on the 49ers, and who has the best chance to challenge the 49ers for the NFC in 2024. And I know that's something that we've talked about, but I just wanted to get into what Greg Olsen had to say. So that is what we will discuss when we come back from break. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about the 49ers, who has the best chance of challenging them in the NFC. But mainly I wanted to get into what Greg Olsen had to say about the Niners and why he believes that they're still the class of the NFC, that they're still the team to beat in that conference. So this is what he had to say. This is from an article on yahoosports.com. So he said, until proven otherwise, you have to imagine the conference goes through them. Obviously, being in the Super Bowl 6 months ago, 5 months ago, you can argue that they are just going to continually get better, keeping a lot of those pieces together, especially the stars. They've got Brock on a rookie contract for at least another year, which is super helpful for all these other guys. So it aligns for them very well. We've spent all this time just talking about their offense, and obviously there are a good couple of players on the defense that I think are going to be okay too, meaning Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. It's as talented of a roster as there is in the NFL. They are paying their quarterback relatively nothing compared to the market, and they have arguably the best coach and the best scheme. So they've all the boxes checked, and until someone proves otherwise, the NFC still feels like a San Francisco race. So interesting comments there by Greg Olsen, and yeah, I've kind of agree. I've said it a lot. I think the 49ers are still the class of the NFC. I think they're still the best team in that conference, but I do think last year in the postseason there was a little bit of vulnerability there, especially at times in the running game. I thought, the Packers and the Lions, too, in the championship game, I thought they ran the ball effectively against the Niners. And that's something you're not used to seeing. You're used to seeing the Niners basically shut, everything down. I think, throwing the ball, that's, where you could beat them because there's some, vulnerability in the secondary as well, which, was exploited at times, and especially, once Mahomes and the Chiefs offense got hot in the second half of the Super Bowl. But yeah, I look at this team still as the class of the NFC. Now they got some things they got to figure out with Brandon Ayuk, and I think once they get that out of the way and they could focus on the season, they're going to be in good shape. And they added to the receiving core. They drafted Ricky Pearsall, and you're hoping that with Ayuk there, you got Pearsall, Ayuk, and Deebo Samuel, of course, with George Kittle, and then you got the best you got the best running back. I don't know what happened there. You got the best running back in the NFL in Christian McCaffrey, arguably. And yeah, I think it's very important that they gotta win, because eventually Brock Purdy is gonna ask for a new contract. They're gonna have to cross that bridge, and it's gonna be very hard to try to keep this whole group together when you have to pay your quarterback a lot of money. So that's what makes this year important. So they better hope that this could be the year. And it definitely can. But, yeah, in terms of now who can knock off the 49ers, I've kind of gone over this, but you look at the team they played in the NFC Championship game, and that is the Detroit Lions. I think the Lions have a very good chance of doing that. And you could argue that the Lions should have been playing in the Super Bowl if it wasn't for some costly mistakes that they made during the game, and a little bit of luck, because let's be honest, that Brandon Ayuk catch, later, in the second half, that was luck. That it got batted up in the air. Now, it wasn't luck that Ayuk was able to catch it off the rebound, because he's a very good receiver, but it's just the fact that ball should have been intercepted, but it got batted up in the air. Ayuk caught it off the rebound, and the 49ers scored off of that. And then because I was watching the highlights recently, and I did mention this on a previous show, I believe, but I forgot that Jahmyr Gibbs, he fumbled on the next drive, and then the 49ers took advantage of that. But yeah, it's just that, and then of course the drops that the Lions had late in the game, going for it on fourth down. The Lions should have won the game, but they didn't. So I do think they have I do think they have a very good chance of being a team that doesn't. Another team I think is the Philadelphia Eagles, and it'll be interesting if these teams do match up, because I don't think they don't play each other this year, because they didn't finish. The 49ers will be playing the Cowboys, but they will not be playing the Eagles. Because the Eagles finished in second. The Eagles are going to be playing, the Eagles are going to be playing the Rams. But I think the Eagles are going to be a much better team this year. I think that collapse was an aberration. I think they're going to be really good once again. With Saquon Barkley now running behind a good offensive line. Now, you're going to miss Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox. I think their absence, you're going to feel that at times, but this team is still really good. They had a good draft. They added to the secondary through the draft, and getting C.J. Gardner-Johnson back. You got Bryce Huff from the Jets to replace Hassan Reddick. So, and you got two new coordinators, and I think, with all that, the Eagles should be good once again. I think they're the favorites in the NFC East. So I'd give the Eagles a good chance to do that. And just, the skill position players. Like I said, you got Saquon Barkley now. And on top of that, your pass catchers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. One of the best duos in the NFL. And along with that, a pretty good tight end, Dallas Goedert. This team is very talented. So I think that's a team that has a good chance to do it. I'd throw the Packers in there as well. I'm very high on the Packers going into this season. They almost knocked off the 49ers in the divisional round, and I think now year 2 with Jordan Love as the full-time starter, another year in the system. They got a pretty good receiving core. None of these guys are stars, but I think they're all pretty good. And you bring in Josh Jacobs now, and, with the new defensive coordinator, the defense could be better. So I think that's another team that's got a shot. The Cowboys, listen, it hasn't gone well against the 49ers the last few years. And I think that's going to continue because, to be honest, the 49ers, the Cowboys really didn't get better. They've kind of stayed the same. Now, that does not mean that they are going to be a bad team, but I just don't. I don't see it with them. I don't see it with them. Now, when it comes to the Packers and the Lions, we saw how they played against them in the playoffs, and they had leads against them. It looked like they were going to win against them. Mainly the Lions because they were up by 17, and the Eagles. I know Brock Purdy got hurt, but we saw the Eagles dominate against the 49ers in the championship game a couple years ago. And I think if Brock Purdy does play, the game probably is closer, but I think the Eagles probably get the win because the Eagles were very good in 22. They were a very good team. They just, once they played the 49ers last year, that was the beginning of the collapse, was that game. That demoralized the Eagles. So, but I think the Eagles, they got, between the Eagles and the Lions, it's very close. Who has the better chance? Because we saw the Eagles did beat the 49ers, but Brock Purdy got hurt. And then the Lions, they were up by 17. And they lost the lead. So it's very close between those two teams, and then I'd probably rank the Packers third. The Lions and the Eagles, it's 1A and 1B for who has the best chance. And then for the other team, I don't think any team in the NFC South has a good chance. I think the Falcons are going to be better with Kirk Cousins, of course, and the Buccaneers, they did win the division last year, but I don't see those teams. I don't really see any of those teams. The Saints, I don't see it with those teams. I said I think the Bears can be good, but I don't think it's them. The Rams maybe. With Stafford. The first game that they played against the 49ers early on, they played well. Healthy Cooper Kupp, a healthy Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford, Kyron Williams. They got playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. But the 49ers have kind of, owned this rivalry. Since the Niners, since 2019, really. Before that, Sean McVay and the Rams, they beat up on the 49ers. Then once the 49ers got that good defense with Bosa, and you had Garoppolo in there, and Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. Kittle was there, when was, what was it, 2018 or 2017? He was drafted. But either way, once, they got Nick Bosa, the year that they got Nick Bosa and they made it to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs the first time, that's when it kind of changed. And the 49ers kind of owned the Rams. So, now the Rams did win the final game of the regular season last year, but that was when, they had all their backups in. So, but, yeah, we'll see. I think, really, it comes down to, I think the Lions and the Eagles, those teams have the best chance. Then you got the Packers, as the third team. But, yeah, I don't see with the Cowboys. The Rams, again, maybe. With the Cowboys and the Rams, maybe, but I don't really. I lean more towards the teams, the top three. The Lions, the Eagles, and the Packers. I think those are the teams that have the best chance. But who knows? Maybe it's a team that I didn't say. So that's my thoughts on it. Who do you guys think has the best chance of knocking off the 49ers? Let me know in the comments. Because, I talked about who has the best chance of knocking off the Chiefs, and this was, Greg Olson was talking about the Niners. So I thought, I'd give my my thoughts on what he said and what I think. But I've talked about this on previous shows. So we are going to take our third break of the show now, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the Patriots. We'll talk about what Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski had to say about Gerard Mayo. Is he the right choice for the the head coaching position of the Patriots based off of what they said? We'll get into all that when we come back from our break. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to talk about Gerard Mayo. We're going to talk about some comments made by Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman, speaking positively about Gerard Mayo and why he's the guy, for the Patriots as he is entering his first season as the head coach of the Patriots post Bill Belichick. Again, it's going to be weird not seeing Belichick on the sidelines for the Patriots because that's kind of been a constant all the years that I've been watching football. But, so let's get into what they had to say. So, Gronk was on Edelman's podcast, the Games with Names podcast, and this is what Gronkowski had to say. He said Gerard Mayo was just a phenomenon on the football field, lining everyone up, and also in the meetings as well. He knew where every player needed to be during any situation that occurred on the defensive side of the ball. He knew how to read offenses. He knew when to call out plays, and he was always correct when he'd call a play out, or else he was just making the whole defense aware of when the play was going to be called. He was just always alert, and you could always tell that was going to translate into the next phase of his life. And then he also said when he was playing, that's what made him a better player too. If you know where to be on the football field, that can make you a better player because you're already in position to make the play. And Edelman said, I always had to look at Gerard. I knew what I had to do, but I always asked to get the approval from Gerard because if Gerard said that, you knew it was right. And Gronkowski said Gerard Mayo was the Tom Brady on the defensive side of the ball. So that high praise there from two guys that, won a lot of championships. It's going to be interesting, with, like I said, no Belichick on the sidelines. But, the Patriots had to go in a different direction. And, based off of what these two guys said, and I like to think they know what they're talking about because, they won a lot of big games, and, being on the field with him in practice, obviously they play opposite sides of the ball, Edelman and Gronk, and, Gerard Mayo being on the defensive side of the ball. But, yeah, if that's the case, maybe he could be the right guy. Yeah, we got to see how it goes. We got to see when games are being played. And maybe the Patriots do surprise people and, the season isn't like how it was last year. Maybe the Patriots do win a couple more games. I'm not really going to say they are because they're still kind of in rebuild mode. You got a young quarterback that you got to break in. The offense is something you still got to work on. And that's why I think the Patriots are, that's where the Patriots, bad record is going to come in. I just don't really believe in the Patriots offense. I think they're lacking on that side of the ball. Now, the defense probably still going to be, the defense is still going to be good. But, if you got an offense that's not really going to generate any points, it's going to be hard to win games. And I don't care how good your defense is. You also need to score points. I mean, I know defense wins championships, but your offense needs to score as well. And I just think that's why the Patriots, at least for this year. I mean, maybe Drake May is the guy. We'll see when he ends up starting. Because Jacoby Brissett, it looks like he's going to end up being the starter, at least for now. But then I think at some point they're going to put in Drake May, and we'll see how he performs. So Gerard Mayo was on the 2014 Super Bowl team, because I wanted to go back to his playing career. He was with the Patriots from 2008 to 2015, and then he's been on the coaching staff. But yeah, because I wanted to go back to see because I'm like, he had to be on one of the Super Bowl teams in the 2010s. So yeah, he was on the 2014 one against the Seahawks, which was one of the best Super Bowls ever. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that's high praise from Edelman and Gronk, and I mean, especially at the end, he's the Tom Brady of defense. So we'll see how it all plays out. But at least for this year, I mean, if the Patriots go like 1-16, like, yeah, that's not a good way to start off. But if they lose a lot of games early on, but they start playing more competitive, and maybe they win one or two more games than they did last year. If there's a level of improvement as we go throughout the season, then that's at least something positive to look at. But like I said, it's a rebuild year. The Patriots, I mean, it's weird just that we used to look at this team as, they're going to win the AFC East. Lock it away, throw away the key. That's their division to win. But now it's not like that. Times have changed. They have not been a good team the last few years. I mean, they did make the playoffs in 2021, but, then 22, they finished the game below 500, I believe. They went 8-9, and then last year they won 4 games. So it's just, it hasn't been great. But, it's a new era, and, I mean, it's all about now developing your young quarterback and just, it's the process. Because everybody's always talking about the process. So, you let Drake May sit behind Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett could go out there and maybe win you some games. And then, you bring Drake May in, towards the end of the season. You give him some reps, and you see what you got in him. And then, the following year, he gets that full year. He gets that runway to, see what he could really do. And, see if you got your franchise quarterback there. And, people are high on Drake May. And that was a team that was a guy that the Giants were trying to trade up to get. Because I know I talked about that when I was discussing the Hard Knocks trailer. So, yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. But, I think the Patriots got a lot of work to do specifically on the, the offensive side of the ball. Now, if you have the quarterback, makes things so much easier. Then you just got to work on what can we surround him with to put him in a great situation. Through the draft, through free agency. They just paid Ramondre Stevenson a lot of money. They brought back Hunter Henry. They extended him. They drafted a receiver. You hope Kendrick Bourne comes back healthy. Last year he got hurt. But they need a number one wide receiver. I think we're still missing that on this team. So, and they're not going to get it this year. Well, maybe someone turns out to be that. But yeah, I think you got to figure that out. So that's really my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think about the Patriots, about Gerard Mayo. Do you believe that he is the right guy? And yeah, it really, again, all goes back to they needed to go in a different direction after Belichick. And maybe a new voice in that locker room, new ideas, a new philosophy. I mean, that we'll see how that goes. But when you got two guys in Edelman and Gronk speaking very highly of you, that you gotta feel very confident as a Patriot fan that maybe Gerard Mayo is the guy. But we got to see how he is in game, and as a head coach, because now it's a lot different. It's a lot different when you're a player as opposed to when you're a coach. So there's a lot of other things that you got to focus on. A lot more things to focus on as a coach as opposed to a player. So we'll see how it translates. But having those two guys have your back and speak highly of you in that way, it's going to make you feel good. That's going to make Patriot fans feel good. But the only way we're going to be able to evaluate Gerard Mayo as a head coach is when we see games being played. And we still have some time before that, but that's at least encouraging to hear. And this is just a rebuild year. So, but you do want to see progress. Because if you don't see progress, then that's going to be a problem. Now, I'm not saying that, I know I brought up the 1-16, but I don't think the Patriots are going to fire Gerard Mayo after one season. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it would have to be really, really bad, and just the locker room is not in a good place. It would have to be really bad. It'd have to be like Urban Meyer level bad that you'd have to get rid of him. And Urban Meyer didn't even finish the season with the Jags. So, there's not a lot of expectations with the Patriots, but it's really just how are you going to grow throughout the season? And how much of Drake May are we going to see? We really don't know when he's going to get his time. Because, again, Jacoby Brissett's probably going to start. But, yeah, how is this team going to progress throughout the season? That's really all it's about is progress. And if there's some progress, then, that's a green check mark there. There's no playoffs. I don't think that's an expectation. Now, if they surprise people and they have a chance to do that, then that's great for them. But I don't think that's happening. I think that's at this point it's kind of unrealistic. And it's weird. It's weird to say that because every year you're like, yeah, the Patriots they're in the playoffs every single year. It's not that case anymore. It's a new era. So now they could find themselves back in those conversations, but I think for this year and probably next year too, that's not really what the conversation is going to be about. And on top of that, the AFC is just loaded. There's so many good teams. So we're going to take our final break of the show now. Let me know what you guys think about what we just talked about, though. And then when we come back, we'll talk about the Jaguars. We'll talk about Shad Khan, the owner, talking about the Jags and the collapse from last season. And that's how we will end off the show for today. So stick around for one final time, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to talk about the Jaguars. We'll talk about Shad Khan and the recent comments that he made on the collapse from last season for the Jaguars. So another AFC South topic here. We did the Titans schedule. Now we're talking about the Jags and their collapse from last year. So this is what he had to say. He said, injuries are a part of the game. We had some of those injuries, but I think it's organizational failure that it happened. All of these players I talked to, it's like, how could this happen? What happened? And he said, for us, winning now is the expectation. He said, I have an opinion, but I don't want to tell people we need to do it because then things don't work out. They look at me and say, we did it because you wanted it. Okay, I think this is on. So he was talking about, I guess, things on Doug Peterson and the offensive coordinator, Press Taylor. So I guess, again, it's more so with what happened with the collapse last year. And then he said how with Doug Peterson, he said, Doug, he's empowered. I'm going to let him decide. And this is it's about play calling duties there. So and then the last thing he said here was, for me, it's really a cause for self-reflection and then something good to come out of it because we just can't have that this year. And again, this is from trying to finish stronger this year as opposed to last year. But yeah, I mean, this is a make or break year. I mean, based on the comments, and I know it kind of sounded a little unorganized how I was going because I was just reading off of the quotes from what he said. But yeah, it just it was kind of a surprise just how this team was in prime position to win the AFC South. And, after they win against the Texans, a very close game, they win that game in Houston. And it just looked like they were in the driver's seat for the division. I said it on the show. I mean, you go back and, I forget which show it was. But, I mean, if you go back and you, because I know I did a segment on it. So if you can try to find it, I probably did say, oh, yeah, it's over. The Jaguars, had this division. And the Texans' best chance is, trying to make the wild card. But that did not happen. The Jaguars they went into a free fall after that. And, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't get hurt against the Bengals, I think we're having a different conversation. I think the Jags probably do make the playoffs. I think they probably win that game against the Bengals, which ended up going into overtime. But yeah, that was with Jake Browning at quarterback. But yeah, it's just late in the year. I mean, they lost to the Ravens, which, the Ravens were really good last year. You lose at home. That was a home game. And the year before that, the Jaguars beat the Ravens at home. But, this was a different Ravens team. They lost to them. You lose to the Titans. You lose to the Browns and Joe Flacco. Trevor Lawrence probably shouldn't have played in that game. He threw 3 interceptions, did not play well in that game either. They collapsed. And I didn't watch Jaguars games closely last year. I could really say, really all I could say is Trevor Lawrence getting hurt. That hurt them. But yeah, it's just everything just went wrong for them. The defense didn't play well either. It's just everything kind of fell apart. And, now going into this year, the division's better. And I had them only winning 8 games. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the case. Even in 2022, they made the playoffs, but yeah, they only went 9-8. And they still went 9-8 last year, and they missed the playoffs. So, now I got them winning one less game, but all you had to do is just win one more game, and you make it. But the Jaguars, they are putting full faith in Trevor Lawrence that he's the guy, and I think he is. But you want him to go out there and have an MVP type season now. Go out there and show that you deserve to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 draft. Show why you were drafted that high. And, 2022, towards the end of the year when the Jaguars went on that run and they won the playoff game against the Chargers, they had that epic comeback. That's the best that we've gotten out of Trevor Lawrence, but we want to see more now. Put together a full season, play really well, beat some teams that, go on the road and beat the Bills early on in the season. Now, the Bills, again, they've gone through a lot of changes, but go on the road and beat the Bills in Buffalo. Show us something. And they got talent on this team. We got to see, how this receiving core is. Like Christian Kirk, they paid him all that money, and last year he got hurt, but, the first year he was good. Evan Ingram has been solid since they got him. Travis Etienne has been one of the better running backs in football. You bring over Gabe Davis. How is Brian Thomas Jr. going to be in his rookie season? And then on the defensive side of the ball, the guys up front with Walker, Josh Allen, and now they got Eric Armstead from the 49ers. I think the defensive line is going to be good. How is the defense going to be? And, we'll see. I think for me, this team, how they make the playoffs, I think is going to be through the wild card because I like the Texans to win the division. But, that doesn't mean that you have no shot with the division. I know the Texans, they made a lot of moves, and now they got Stephon Diggs, and, they are the defending champs of the AFC South. But, if Trevor Lawrence can, show that, hey, listen, this is still my division. Show me that you could beat the Texans. The Texans, they went into Jacksonville and they won by a few scores last year, which was kind of a shocker. But how the season ended up turning out, it wasn't really that much of a shocker because Texans ended up winning the division. The Texans went on the road and beat the Bengals. They beat Joe Burrow and the Bengals on the road. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But, yeah, the Eagles and the Jags, two teams that collapsed last year, they're looking to redeem themselves and, go out and try to show that last year was a fluke and, try to make the playoffs. But it's a make-or-break year, for the coaching staff because if it doesn't pan out, Doug Peterson's probably gone. And the general manager might be gone too. Yeah, probably is gone too. Trent Baalke. So there's a lot on the line for those guys. So and I think Doug Peterson is a good coach. He did win the Super Bowl with the Eagles. It's not like he hasn't won anything, even though that was a long time ago. And I think in 22, despite the tough start, they finished strong. Because where they were in 21 with Urban Meyer, that was a disaster. And getting Doug Peterson in there, who has won a Super Bowl, it looked like, hey, the Jags are trending in the right direction. And then they got off to that great start, 8-3. And, they were in contention for, like, the 1 seed. You had all these teams that were, like, neck and neck for the 1 seed. Everybody was, like, 8-3, 8-4. But, not only did they not They didn't stay in those conversations. They just flat out missed the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. I just want to see games being played so we could just get into it. But we still got some time to go. And, we'll see what happens. But that's really my thoughts on the Jags. So we do have a few minutes left here. But, so this is so I'm going to be going away for a little bit. It's not like forever, but I will. I'm going to be. I'm not going to be. No shows next week. I'm not going to be around. But I will be back. So hopefully you guys don't miss me too much. But I, like I said, won't be here. And make sure to check out all the other shows. We still got content coming out, of course. But yeah, it is a good time too. We're still in the off season. Hopefully when I come back though, we get some news on Ayuk and Tua. Maybe Tua has a new deal by then. Jordan Love maybe gets his new deal. A lot can happen in a week. Or it could be just more of like how these last couple weeks have gone, where it's just kind of been there hasn't been any major news. I at this point, I just want games to start. But you're kind of contradicting yourself, because I say that, but I also don't want to rush, the summer away. And we're already going to be in July soon. So already it's going fast. And based off of how, the Yankees have been playing lately, I'm kind of like, how much longer do we have before football starts? They're going through a rough patch right now. If you even want to call it that. It's worse than that, but yeah, it's already down 8-0 in the first 2 innings, but that's not going to go off on a tangent on that. So no shows next week. Again, hopefully you guys don't miss me too much, but I will be back, of course. And hopefully we get some more news on things. Looking forward to it. So, with that is all the time that we have for today. Make sure to check out all the other shows, like I said. We're still going to have, just because I'm not here doesn't mean we don't have content still coming out. We still got shows going on all day long. So make sure to check out everybody's shows. Get perspectives on the NBA draft that happened recently. Bronny James did get drafted by the Lakers, so he is going to be joining his father, LeBron, on the Lakers. Make sure to check out the sports podcast, and of course Nelson, the basketball podcast host, get their takes on it, because I'm sure they're going to talk about it. Baseball's in full swing. It's still got some sports going on, but yeah, there's no more NHL, NBA for a little bit. We got the NBA Summer League, but I don't really pay attention to that. But yeah, make sure to check out all the other shows. I keep saying it, but make sure to do that. So that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, no shows next week. I will be back on, if my math is correct. No, it's, I think July 8th. July 8th. I will be back on July 8th. So I'll see you guys then. Take care, and I will see you guys next time.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't